basically, in a nutshell, it's the fine art of not giving a fuck.
One of their buzzword or buzz phrases, I guess, is if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention.
Well, that is a pitfall. You could choose, and this is the whole one of the really key things of Stoicism. You choose how you feel.
The social justice movement has a lot to learn from Stoicism. Like, I think it would go a lot further if they practiced Stoicism.
You know, like, how do we know if this is a simulation? How do we know this is real? Like, all we have is what we perceive. And here's another plot twist, I guess, is that the devices we create to detect things and to analyze stuff, we're perceiving them too. So it's our own perceptions of the things that we created that tell us that information. Like,
well, okay, let's dial it back, Doctor Who. Being scared by a movie, like, you're almost suspending Stoicism for the sake of entertainment there. And it's like, that's almost like a good exercise, even to just allow yourself to, like, let go.
All right, welcome to another pantsless episode of Kitchen Sink Microscopy. It is very hot, as people might be aware. Pacific Northwest has experiencing a rare heat dome event, so it's super hot. And the best thing to do is drink up and have a few beers. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we'd love it if you'd like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. That'd be awesome.
Yes, and I'm Casey Rochford, and I'm sitting in my car not just for the AC, but because my internet sucks, as fans of the show are fully aware by now. And so I'm in a bit of a pissy mood. So yeah, I'll hang around to the end for the song, and I'll try not to be super pissy the whole time. But what would you like to talk about?
Well, it's funny you should mention being pissed off, because recently I've posted a video on Facebook, and this is something that's been kind of a life-changing revelation in my life. I recently posted a video about Stoicism. Basically, in a nutshell, it's the fine art of not giving a fuck. And
don't tell me not to give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about you telling me not to give a fuck.
But I think it's something. It's a learned skill, and something that really everybody should have in their toolbox. I think so. Maybe we should. Yeah. We could talk about all kinds of things, but let's start with Stoicism as a kind of a foundational beginning.
I watched that video and I really liked it because there was a lot of good points in there, and I found myself realizing that I've always kind of ascribed to a lot of that just kind of naturally, like and I've worked on it more and more, and of course I'm not perfect at it because I'm pissy, but it has been getting easier the more I've worked on it. Like there was a situation just the other day. I was about to get us a guest that's like kind of locally famous, like she's been on The Voice and stuff, but we wanted to talk about like some some issues surrounding race and stuff like that. And we became friends on Facebook, and within like a couple of days, she blocked me. Based on like one interaction. Like one interaction, she decided I was a piece of shit and wanted nothing to do with me. And for a second, I was like, oh, that kind of, angers me or like makes me sad or whatever. And then I was like, whatever, like if she's that fucking shallow, I'm better off not having her around, I guess. But, it's just sad that people let emotion rule them so much and deject other people just for their own like mental health. It's like, fucking suck it up. And, like the Stoicism video said, expect the worst. Like life is going to throw shit in your face. Yep. It's going to happen. You got to roll with it and just make the best of it. You can't just run away from it or cry about it. Like,
well, yeah. And letting one little tiny, misstep or event kind of dictate the totality of your experience with somebody is ridiculous. Like people have bad days, right? Like you might say something that might be offensive one day, and but you got to take the whole thing, the big picture, right? Like there's a lot more to a person than some tweets or some Facebook posts or whatever. And yeah, I think it's true that people are very inclined to be reactionary and kind of let their emotions like take control of them. And that's not to say, and a lot of people think about things like Stoicism and they think, oh, you're just a cold-hearted Vulcan or something. You got no emotions. It's like, no, emotions are a thing, and they're really good. But it's something that you should be aware of, like the fact that you have emotions and be able to catch yourself when it's carrying you away, And
meditation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and meditation, I think is another really important thing too. And just like Stoicism, the study of that, I firmly believe that I advocate that people should meditate on a regular basis. It's very healthy. It is a very healthy thing.
I think that's called active medication or meditation.
Active medication, huh? Hey,
I might have had some beer.
Yeah.
Like mindfully noticing things that you normally just kind of wash over and being aware of it, and you kind of train yourself to automatically be aware of it and adjust accordingly, and then that becomes your new muscle memory.
The thing is, I think it's a huge problem, maybe globally, well, certainly globally, that people are not aware of that emotional aspect, and no one has any training to deal with that. Like, sorry, it's really hot up here, so I'm trying to focus my thoughts while I'm like sweating. But what was I going to say? More beer.
Well, so you probably know this by heart, whereas I just watched that video earlier, so I've forgotten already. But there was like 4 core like beliefs or something that go along with Stoicism. And
yeah. I've probably had too much beer to recall them on a moment's notice.
Yeah. I know one was justice. So it was interesting to me to learn that, throughout the history of Stoicism, justice was kind of like one of the pillars of the philosophy. And that struck me as really funny because like I explained, the social justice warrior that blocked me in like 2 days after meeting me on Facebook. Like that was pure emotion. There was no stoicism involved in that whatsoever. Like the social justice movement has a lot to learn from stoicism. Like I think it would go a lot further if they practiced stoicism.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the important thing about that. I just recalled another one, perseverance, or persistence,
Or resilience or something. It was something
yeah,
along that line.
yeah. But there's more than just like a checklist. It's certainly a kind of a whole entire philosophical umbrella. But what I was going to say is the thing is, if you're trying to accomplish a goal and you're constantly being thwarted and tossed around by your emotions, which don't necessarily have any logical direction whatsoever, well, then essentially you're just riding on the river in a boat. Like, if you want to accomplish something, you should know how to control things, know how to deal with the difficult things that people have to deal with, and be able to overcome them and accomplish your goal in spite of the limitations. But if your default is to just unfriend somebody or yell at them or punch them or something, like, well, you've already lost the battle that you're trying to fight. And it's really important to be able to, there's somebody peeling out outside. It's really important to be able to gain control of those things and basically be your own boss. Because the thing is, if you let emotion rule your life, you're essentially a child, which, as we all know, children, their emotions rule everything. And part of becoming an adult is understanding that and developing a system, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting heat stroke here, but I thought I had a good point. But yeah.
I think another one of those pillars, I can't remember the word they used, but it surprised me that it was kind of about, I think it had something to do with like finding happiness within rather than from like having stuff or whatever. And
Yes.
it was basically the philosophy that you should only have like just enough, and then or only have what you need and then have enough of that. But like having more is like pointless, and I felt like that was actually like pretty similar to the whole idea behind like a social democracy where like mega rich people, it's kind of like pointless. It's not doing anything for the economy, for other people. Like it's not even doing anything for them. They just sit on it and it does nothing, and they never use it. Like it's wasteful, and
the point isn't necessarily that you shouldn't have any of these things, but it's being content within yourself, right? Like if you're just your own person on an island with nothing, you should be able to be happy. If you have other things, so be it. There's nothing wrong with having stuff. God,
well,
knows I have enough stuff here, but
it specifically said like what you need and then just enough. Like it was like calling that out, and I think it was doing it for a very specific purpose, because like while it's true that like quote unquote money doesn't buy you happiness, it's the focus isn't the money, it's what you need money in order to obtain. And it's like if you can't afford food and shelter, it's really hard to be happy. Like,
well, yeah, it's survival.
It's fine to say, it's fine to say, oh, you should just be happy and stoic about it if you're homeless. But it's like, I mean, like, you got to draw a line somewhere between like saying, oh, whatever, and just going with the flow, and like actually getting off your ass and like getting pissed off about it and doing it.
Yeah. The key thing is that, you should recognize your needs, your immediate needs, and fulfill them however you can. Those are tertiary things in a sense from a happiness standpoint. Happiness doesn't come from those things. I mean, certainly unhappiness can come from the lack of those things.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
So but that's the problem, is that we're conditioned as earthlings that we need all kinds of things, whatever it might be. We need stuff, we need status, we need attention or love or fast cars or whatever. Who knows? Families or something, religious stuff. We're conditioned that we need those things in order to be happy. But the Stoic angle is basically, you could be happy without those things. As long as you're able to survive, you don't need anything else, because your happiness doesn't come externally. It comes internally. It's something that you give yourself. And
yeah, I think it's deeper than that though, like, because there's been studies that like people have, like individuals have a baseline happiness. Like they will never, like for an extended period of time, be more or less happy than that. They might have some ups and downs and stuff, sure, but like, they've done studies on people who have like gone to prison and who have won the lottery, like two like very drastic ends of like the good bad things that could happen to you, right?
yeah.
And they've seen that like varying degrees of people would just kind of like level out at their baseline level of happiness. Like if you were a basically content, happy person beforehand, and you got thrown in prison for 20 years, you'd probably like get through it okay, because you're just naturally kind of a happy person. It's not necessarily that you like were born being a stoic sort of person.
No, and that is not. We're not born that way. This is an acquired skill. And one of the problems with studies like that is that it analyzes people who don't have the ability to cope with those things. So the data, like, I don't know if it's really usable in that regard.
Well, any social study like that isn't really like, you can't put a whole lot of weight on it, but
well, no, but it's something to contemplate for sure.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been able to, like notice that in myself too. Where I'll have like this kind of baseline level that I'll return to no matter what, and it's attenuated a little bit with some medication, but it's still, the waves are still very much the same kind of amplitude and frequency. I would say, it's just the midpoint has shifted a little bit with medication, but like I think that kind of like, for lack of a better word, biorhythm, I suppose, would be pretty much like, I don't even know that like adopting Stoicism would actually change that all that much, because I feel like there's kind of a lot going into it, like more than just your outlook on things.
Well,
like I think there's some biochemical input on that
there can be, but you can overcome.
Can't really override.
You could potentially overcome those things, because I mean, we're still talking about the human mind, and perception is reality. And your perception is something you build yourself. It's not something external, it's internal.
But is perception reality? Because everyone's perception is different. That means there would be billions of different realities.
And there are. That's my point. that there is no such thing as what is reality. Like,
Mm.
objectively, what is real? We don't know. I mean, we have our senses, we have equipment that we can detect things that we can't sense. We can record data and stuff, but that doesn't tell us what reality is. Um,
I
so
guess it
maybe
depends on
there
how
is.
you're defining it.
Well, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are you talking about reality on a macroscopic level? Like, are we in a simulation, or is this like,
Oh, don't get me started on the simulation
yeah,
theory.
be- because
But
if we're talking on a micro level, like if I wanted to say, hey, the Earth is round, that's a reality, and you were like, no, the Earth is flat, that's a reality. Well, only one of us is correct.
well,
There
no,
is not two people being correct there.
that's true. That is something that can be compared and tested and things like that. But when it comes
That's
to,
what I think of when I say reality. It's
yeah,
like
no, I'm saying
actual things.
objectively, what is actually real out there? Like, what does the world actually look like, or what is its structure? Like, we don't really know. I mean, all we can do is we can only perceive 3 dimensions. Some people only one. But you know, what if there's more out there? We would never know that. Like, how do we know if this is a simulation? How do we know this is real? Like, it, all we have is what we perceive. And here's another plot twist, I guess, is that the devices we create to detect things and to analyze stuff, we're perceiving them too. So it's our own perceptions of the things that we created that tell us that information. Like, I
Well, okay, and let's dial it back, Doctor Who. Before we get way out in the weeds, like, so perception and reality, like, I guess there's a few different types of perception as well, because there's our senses that we perceive with, but I guess in this context we should probably be talking more about like how we perceive situations and interactions, because that's what
that
really affects emotion, right?
yeah, and that's exactly kind of what I was getting at about, like,
Yeah.
reality, not necessarily atoms and things like that, but like
Yeah.
bigger things, right? Like stuff that's more kind of subjective, I guess.
Right. Okay. So in that case, I would argue that perception is absolutely not reality in the case of like an interaction between two people, because what you perceive that I'm thinking, you can never actually know. Only I know what I'm thinking. So if I say something to you, what I intended is what's real. How you perceive it may or may not align with that.
That is very true, and that's why I'm saying there's multiple realities in
Mm-hmm.
this context.
Okay, yeah, in that context, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
And
that's
that's where communication is really important, and having standards and stuff like that, like universally understood things, terminology or whatever. And this is why it like grinds my gears when like stuff like grammar and definitions of things. It's very important that everybody align on that so that we can describe what we see accurately, and the person hearing the description can understand it accurately. And in this world now where everything is kind of muddied and fuzzy logic to hell, it's like it's very hard to because people feel so firmly on their beliefs about what a thing means, or a word or something like that. And
yeah.
and that is it's a subjective thing. You can look in the dictionary, but then which dictionary, from what time, like, it all
Well,
depends.
even
And
if you pull out a dictionary, people go, well, you can't just rely on a dictionary, or
well, no, because people's understanding of the world is based on their experiences. And unless you have the exact same experiences as the person you're communicating with, well, there's going to be some gaps there. And those gaps could create problems if it's something you feel really emotional about. And that brings us back to Stoicism. that you know, you should ignore your emotions, and try to be as objective as possible. I mean, this is something I've struggled with my entire life. Like, in, you know, I posted that video, but that video is like, you know, there have been many, well, I would honestly say my entire life has been, I guess, a conditioning. Oh,
wait. Did I drop out?
Yeah, you're back. You're good.
Okay. I thought I could look something up while you were talking, but apparently I wanted to see what that fourth pillar was.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe we'll put the a link to that video in the description down there, so people can check it out for themselves, because it is really good, and it you know, it really sums up nicely the entirety of Stoicism. What was I saying earlier?
I don't know. I'm also distracted by these two dudes from Deliverance that pulled up behind me, so I'm kind of keeping my eye on them.
Deliverance. Well, I hope you got a sidearm there, buddy. Because I always do. Ruger LCP.
I do have a blackjack.
Well, I mean, it's better than nothing.
Piece of lead on a string wrapped in leather. That's actually really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or you know, like having a tire iron. And it's not the lug wrench. I'm talking the thing for like taking tires off of wheels. It's a nice long thing with a kind of a curved end on one side and kind of a hook on the other. It's a big old heavy piece of metal. And you know, if you whack somebody with that, they're going down.
I've got a crowbar about that big.
Yeah, or crowbar, wrecking bar, whatever, you know, like baseball bat. I mean, I'm a little bit fond of guns, but if you're not, you know, have something. Yeah,
I'm a ninja, so I'm more about the hand-to-hand stuff.
And just like you're just gonna like grab a piece of bamboo out of the ground and like, and like hit somebody in the head, and they go.
Stoic that motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole ninja thing, is like use what's in your surroundings, right? You know, you don't need weapons. People are like always, whoa, ninja weapons. Like, there's no such thing. You go like, have you even studied ninjutsu? Like the history of it? Ninja weapons.
Shuriken.
Yeah, well, ninja weapons were like farming implements and stuff that was repurposed as weapons. Like, it's really cool. So, okay, let's get back to Stoicism, I guess, for now. I guess kind of like something, my own interpretation of Stoicism is kind of like letting go, right? It's like, you know what? Life is happening. Stuff is moving around the universe. Maybe a big old giant flaming meteorite is going to hit the planet. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe the sun's going to explode. But you live your life to the best of your ability, and weather the storms, deal with them as you can, and just let go. Like, you know what? You can't control the weather. It's really hot right now. I can't control the weather. I'm not cursing it. I'm just like, this really sucks. But you know, it's kind of funny at the same time. And that's the whole thing. Like if you're stuck in traffic, the other day, it was like at work. So I work in IT, and late in the day, we got a call from loss prevention that one of our locations lost power, and we needed to open a cash drawer because apparently they didn't have the keys. So it was left to me because I was the only person that came in that day. On Monday, the day when it hit like 112 or whatever in Tacoma. So, it's late in the day, it's blazing ass hot, and I had to drive to Auburn to open a cash drawer with my keys. And I checked the traffic, and it's shit. It's like black all the way through Highway 18. It was completely shit. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even imagine coming back from that too. Going there is going to be bad enough, but coming back is going to be even worse. And of course, it's so hot that the AC in the company vehicle barely works. It's kind of blowing out sort of this tepid air that's kind of cool, but not really. It's like, and of course, I'm sitting in stop and go traffic. Then I'm listening to the radio, and at first I had like talk radio on or the news or something like that. Listen to that, and then I got into this traffic, and like I was getting all kind of annoyed. But then I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna flip it to the classical station, and there was classical music. Like all of a sudden it was so peaceful, and I watched all these cars merging so slowly while like this really calm classical music was playing, and I was like, this is actually kind of pleasant. As crazy as it is, it's actually kind of pleasant and kind of enjoyable and amusing.
That's funny. Like when I had that shit job in Memphis, I actually got to a point where I had to listen to classical music on my way into work just to like get through the day. Because it can really like bring you down to a more even keel.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm saying about, perception is reality. It's like how you look at the situation, whatever it may be, is what's real. Like you could choose, and this is the whole one of the really key things of Stoicism. You choose how you feel. You can choose to be angry about the fact that 4:00 in the afternoon you have to drive in 100+ degree weather with shitty ass AC and stop and go traffic, and get all riled up and stuff. Or you could just like, what, fuck it, I'm just on the road, I'm going down here and just doing what I do. And
that is pretty unlucky though.
Yeah. Oh,
because I was on the road around like 5:30 or 6, and there was like nobody during rush hour around Tacoma. I was like, whoa, this is weird. Nobody. I guess everyone stayed home today, but they were all in Auburn.
Yeah, well, they bugged out early is what happened. And a lot of places closed early. But that's the thing, is like how you view things and how you emotionally analyze things dictates how you react to it. You can choose to be angry about something or jealous or whatever, hurt or something, or you can choose not to be and just see it as, well, this is something that happened. The way I think about it, I do this kind of thing, and I've been doing this for quite a while actually, this sort of reset where if I start feeling agitated, I'll just stop and ponder the fact that everything in the universe, everything that we know is nothing but matter and energy moving around. That's it. That's all it is. Like all the events that happen, all the big things, the stuff that we freak out about and all this stuff, all it is just matter and energy moving around. And it, I start from that point, like, so I kind of clear everything out. It's kind of a meditative thing, I guess. Zero it all and then start again. And it's very helpful. to kind of wipe out that emotional response to things, like where you start getting like connected to stuff and feel like it's something you should be emotionally reactive to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. How much they tie together with meditation.
Yeah,
Like one can be the key to the other. I
agree. I think it's kind of intertwined, actually.
Yeah, I have been like noticing more and more lately that I've just kind of fallen into that, like accidentally even. Because a lot of people have been asking me lately, like, because my mom has stage 4 cancer and I'm unemployed. They're like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "Okay." Like, like I'm not worried about anything. Like I'm taking it one day at a time. When shit goes sideways, it's gonna go sideways, and I'll deal with it. But
Well, that's a very stoic sort of stance, actually.
yeah, and it's like I'm fully aware that it can go sideways very easily, very soon, and I've thought of like ways to handle it if and when that happens. So I'll just wait and see if it happens. Like,
Yeah,
keep.
well, and the thing is, you can't change the stuff that you have no control over. Like your mom having cancer. My mom had cancer and it killed her.
Yeah.
That happened, and that might have actually been kind of a turning point in my way of sort of analyzing the world around me, like made me see things differently. But you can curse things all you want. You can get all angry and yell at people and whatnot, but it isn't going to change reality. Like, matter and energy is still there. It's moving around. It's doing its thing. You can't control it unless you're God. Are you a God? Like, unless you're a God, you don't have control over that shit. So why care? Why give a shit? Just let go. Like, let go. No, well, that's kind of a thing, is like, just let go and deal with the things you have control over, and try to find happiness in just living the experience and stuff. Even if it's bad, even bad things can actually be a blissful moment, of sorts. And that's a thing that Stoicism can teach you. Like, you can actually be completely content having nothing or having everything. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, he was a Stoic. And there was in that video too, the other guy, I don't remember his name now. It starts with an E. I can't remember his name, but he was a slave, and he was a Stoic. And like, you can find happiness in your life, like pleasure, no matter what you have or don't have. They say comparison is the thief of joy, and I think far too often, and it's probably media, advertising, and whatnot, telling us to compare ourselves to other people, beauty magazines and stuff like that, and muscle magazines and whatnot. That oh, hey, if you want to really be a real man or something, you got to be this, or you got to have that. It's like, you know what? You don't have to have shit. This is all you need right there. And as long as you're of sound mind, you should be able to be happy.
Sorry, the deliverance guys were just seeing if I was okay, so I guess they're pretty nice.
Oh, good. Well, that's fortunate. Well, I don't think you're that far away. So if you ran into trouble, I could head over there and take care of business.
See, I wasn't freaking out. I was stoic about it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and actually, that puts you in a position of control of a situation like that too.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, another thing I've noticed, like, and I don't know if this is like a legit problem with my brain, but I almost never get adrenaline rushes anymore.
huh.
Like I've had some near misses on the motorcycle, and I'm just like, oh, that happened, and
Yeah.
like I calmly like get through it. Like I don't take the second to freak out and cinch up and like lose control of anything. I just like get around it, and that's it. Like, and my heart doesn't like thump in my chest or anything, and I'm like, that's weird, right? Like, shouldn't I
No.
be like, oh wow, I almost died or something, like.
Well, that's something you could think about after the fact, but I think that's a
I mean, that's a
very
biological function, like that can save your life. Like if I needed the adrenaline, it wouldn't be there. Like,
but
is
you
there
wouldn't
maybe a
need it.
drawback to stoicism?
Well, you wouldn't need
You
it
get to
in
run
that
faster
situation.
to like get away from a lion or something,
Yeah, yeah,
like
but that's my point is like you don't need that surge of adrenaline when you're on like a motorized vehicle or something, or you're at a business meeting.
that's
That was
true.
something I had a lot of trouble dealing with. Public speaking, growing up, terrified me, absolutely terrified me. I would like get all flush in the face and start sweating and get all weird and stuff just because I had to talk in front of people. And now I don't care. Like I'll do anything in front. Well, almost anything in front of any group of people. Like because I honestly don't give a shit what people's opinion is of me. And maybe that was the thing back then. I used to care, like, oh, well, I need affirmation from other people that I'm okay. And now I come from the standpoint, like the default stance is, yeah, I'm all right. Like imperfect, but all right. And fuck them if they can't take a joke. Like I don't care. I honestly do not care what people think of me.
The Caddyshack gopher.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's not to say that I would like do anything to hurt anybody, make them feel bad or something. Like that's the last thing I want to do. Because I know how that feels, and that's an experiential thing. Like I've been there, I've been bullied, I've been made fun of, and stuff like that. So it's like I don't want anybody to feel those things. But as far as judgment, like I don't care what you think of me at all, and it feels
So
great. It is so liberating to get to that point.
so I just had a thought. I think the reason that people have such a problem with stoic persons is that they don't see what they expect. They don't see you reacting. Um, like when I've been at work or whatever, and like something major happened and it needed to be dealt with right away. Most people were just like, "We got to do something. We got to do something," and I'm just like calmly handling it, and they're like, "You're not having a sense of urgency." I was like, "Yes, I am. I'm just not freaking out."
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to be efficient.
Mhm.
And I think that also happens with that might also be happening with the social justice thing. They probably feel like they need to exude some kind of like anger, some visible, palpable anger to let people know that they're trying to do something to better the world. And then that anger actually kind of like does the exact opposite of what they're trying to achieve.
Well, and the
Whereas,
anger becomes all that it's all about. Like
yeah,
you don't have a vector, then
right. But on the flip
goal.
side, they see people like us that are stoic that are actually like trying for that justice. One of the pillars of stoicism, and they don't think we're actually doing anything because they can't see us being like
you're
pissed off
absolutely right. Like, if we're not freaking out, we must be, we don't care. Oh, we totally don't care. Like,
because one of their buzzword or buzz phrases, I guess, is if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention.
well, that is a pitfall. But that's exactly how you fail at your job, if that's your job. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's better to actually calmly and rationally accomplish a goal and analyze a situation than to panic and just freak out over it. Like, in fact, in my experience, the whole freaking out thing actually makes it worse. Like, you're less able to do what you set out to do. Like, if you can ignore all of the noise and all of the stuff around you and just be dead set on one thing, like, okay, I'm going to do this thing regardless of what's happening around me. There could be like a nuclear war happening, but I'm going to do this thing, whatever it is. You'll actually accomplish it, or at least your odds of accomplishing will be much greater than if you're running around like panicking or getting angry about things or something, like aimlessly. And that's what I see with what you're talking about, is there's a lot of aimless anger. They're just like, well, there's a problem and I'm angry about it. So, you got to be angry. That's the first step. Well, that actually is that's the problem. The fact that you're letting yourself get angry, anger is the focus, is exactly why you will fail at your task. I don't know. I mean, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. It's interesting to look at it from that angle of like how the roots of Stoicism are actually like probably the key to achieving a lot of what people in that camp, the social justice movement and stuff, what they actually want to achieve, like, and they're going about it the exact opposite way, and they're wondering why they're not making enough ground, like, and well, the definition of insanity, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Man, that's a good point. Yeah. Oh man.
And I mean, so like to go back to that that girl that blocked me after a couple of days, like the last thing I said to her was like, check out Daryl Davis, because because she was talking about like yeeting people out of her life that think that doing that very thing is bigotry, and I was like, it is textbook bigotry. Like, you're excluding people based on their beliefs and their creed and all that stuff. And she was like, no, it's not, it's for my mental health. And I was like, okay, well, and I mentioned Daryl Davis, and she knew who he was, and she just like brushed it off and made me out like an asshole. And then a bunch of her friends jumped on, which is what always happens. Like, the social justice thing is all about like pack mentality bullying. Like, everybody jumps in and like tries to make you look like the asshole. It's like, it's a cult. It really is. Like,
oh, absolutely. And it's religious too. Religiosity.
It's kind of creepy. Like, it really freaks me out. Like, it's like, I like social justice, but they're ruining the phrase social justice by being warriors about it. Like, you shouldn't be warriors. You need to be like facilitators or diplomats, like.
Yeah, and it's aimless, emotional vectors, I guess. I mean,
it's just posturing, like, look at me, I'm pissed off at this that makes it, it's a thoughts and prayers thing. It's like, look at how much I care. And
Yeah,
then
well,
that's supposed to be enough.
and the thing is, if you really want to accomplish your goals, the last thing you'd want to do is toss out of your life somebody that you disagree with. Me, I'm a change hearts and minds kind of person. I embrace people that I disagree with because I feel like there's stuff I want to share. You know, I want to enlighten people. I want people to be free. And maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong too. Maybe they have things that they can share with me. And that's good.
If you want to change people's minds, you have to be open to have yours changed as well. It's only fair, right?
Well, and if you're trying to change people's minds, yeeting them out of your life will absolutely not accomplish that at all. Like,
nope.
Okay, well, that's it. Done and done. Like, now that person is over there doing their thing. You're doing your thing. And I don't get it. Like, you know, if you feel so strongly about what you believe, wouldn't you want to? And this is something I guess I got to give a little cred to Christian people that, you know, they go out into places and talk to people and risk their lives and stuff for their beliefs. Like, if you're not doing that, you know, like, you're not going to actually achieve what you're hoping to do. If you want to change things, the last thing you'd want to do is kick somebody out of your life, disassociate yourself with them. You know, somebody that you disagree with. Like, those are the people. You don't want to be talking to people that you agree with. They're already in your camp, for fuck's sake. You know, like, talk to people that you don't agree with. You know, have a conversation.
They don't want to put in the hard work, the effort.
No,
and that's the thing.
That's true, and it does involve, for them, probably because there's some emotion and stuff. Like, everything's emotion driven. And there's this perception that, you know, emotion is all it takes. Well, no. If you're trying to convince me emotion isn't going to do shit, bro, you know, you have to come at me with logic. Like,
trying to change minds is hard work. It can be frustrating, and it can be mentally taxing, and I understand that, and I have to take breaks from people sometimes, you know. But I try not to be like so melodramatic about it and like make a big show of it. And, you know, like if I need to walk away, I'll just walk away for a while and come back later and see if things are different, you know. Like,
why do you think I only log on to Facebook when I'm drunk? I get in there and I like post a few things and then I'm gone for like a month.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's definitely hard work, but I think it's worth it because every so often you change someone's mind, and that's a good feeling. Every so often you change your own mind, and that's also a good feeling. Because
that was what I was going to say, that like it's a give and take thing. Like, nobody knows true reality. And we're all trying to discover it. Everybody has a little piece of the puzzle, and by sharing those pieces, we'll come to a greater understanding. Like, somebody you disagree with might have the most profound piece of information, like a life-changing piece of information, and if you just toss them out of your life, you're never gonna experience that. And, you know, by the same token, engaging with that person and trying to change their mind. I mean, it's not. This is one of the problems, I think, is that people by and large have this idea that what they believe is correct. And
Mhm.
all they have to do is convince somebody else in some way, whether it be through coercion or emotive arguments or yelling or whatever discussion, that they're going to come around and they're going to understand. And it's like, okay, part of this is understanding that you could be wrong about what you believe. That should
Well, okay, yeah,
always be on the table. That like the Stoic philosophy, like the worst could possibly happen. Like,
yeah.
be
So
prepared for
yes,
that.
I agree with that. Like the possibility of being wrong should always be on your mind, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have conviction about
No,
things that
no.
you're really certain about. And so like when you get into arguments with people, like I've had this happen. There's a friend of mine that we don't see eye to eye on much of anything, but we enjoy that. But like he's expressed frustration before at the fact that I've changed his mind on some things, but he hasn't changed my mind. And I didn't say anything in response because I wanted him to like sit on that and have it echo in his head. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
like it's not like a it's not like a scale thing. Like,
It's not a tit for
like
tat sort of thing.
right, like, oh, I changed your mind. I guess I better change my stance on something to like balance it now. No, it doesn't
Well,
work that
and that's
way.
something that I deal with all the time in non-monogamy, and polyamory and stuff. Is like people in relationships feel like, well, you spent so much time with this partner, so I should spend this time with you. And it's like, it's not a like quantitative thing, it's a qualitative thing. Like, you could spend like 10 days with somebody and it doesn't really mean anything, or you could spend 10 minutes with somebody and it's the most amazing experience ever. Like,
Yeah.
time is irrelevant. And yeah, like, just because it's kind of a looking backward sort of thing with your friend, that, oh, well, in the past, you've changed my mind, but I've never changed your mind. Well, what about the future? Like,
Yeah.
it could happen. It's possible that at some point in some conversational uh, situation, he'll change your mind or she'll change your mind.
Yeah.
It's
And
totally
I
possible.
should mention that at that moment I took the time to stop and think over our past interactions, like, is there anything I didn't give a fair chance to? And then I also thought, like, have I ever changed my mind? Well, yeah, like tons of
Yeah.
times. Like, like I've gone all over the place on certain things, like back and forth in some situations,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Same here. Yeah. In
so
fact, here's the thing that I think would give people a little bit of relief. You can't change anybody's mind. Only they can change their own mind. So it's only through discussion and discourse that minds will be changed, whatever, but you can't like forcibly do it to somebody. You there's no way to do that.
it's like building an arch. Like, you can't do it with one person. You've got to like have a team working on it. Like
Yeah.
everyone has to contribute a little bit, hold one end up, work on the other end and bring them together. And it doesn't happen overnight, or in one
Well,
conversation.
and that's an important distinction, that it doesn't happen overnight. That sometimes you plant a seed that grows over time. Maybe there's a seed in your own head, huh? It's possible. And so the important thing is to get people thinking about things, to ponder stuff. And maybe it'll be some weird fever dream years down the road where they'll be like, oh shit, I never thought of that. That makes a whole lot of sense now. That has happened to me so many times where things from years past suddenly came up and I was like, oh, yeah. Like, and so this is the emotional thing where people feel like, oh, I got to change somebody's mind right now. It's got to be different. What? That's exactly how you fail, is by setting a goal that's implausible, like completely impossible to achieve.
Yeah. You know what? I just had a thought, like we've recently started working on a book about like isms, like, racism and sexism and various other forms of it too, like political and whatnot, philosophical. Yeah. But like, I almost feel like in the very front of the book, like the foreword, we should ask the reader to, once they've read the book, set it down, digest it, and reread it, like after a short while, and just allow all that stuff to like sit with them for a minute, because I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, like just from experience in saying a lot of this stuff to people. But I strongly feel like it makes sense, and it's definitely, like, I know for my reality, I know what I'm thinking. It's not coming from a place of hatred or bigotry. It's quite the opposite. So, like what I'm writing is for a good cause, and I feel like people really need to like make an effort to listen to it and absorb it and think about it.
Well, and like, ask the question, why are you pissed off about it?
Yeah.
Too. If you're getting pissed off, why are you pissed off? And that's something that we're not taught to do, to question why we're reacting the way we are. Because as soon as you ask that question, things change quite a bit. Yeah, actually,
people already do this all the time. They'll watch a movie for a second time or listen to an album a second time and say, you know what, I didn't like it at first, but on the second go around, it's really deep. Like sometimes you have to get the whole picture and then rework it, like go back through it to fully appreciate the entire work, because you start picking up things that make earlier parts make sense, but it can't be structured any other way, any better, to like make it all make sense in a linear fashion. Like you have to just experience it twice,
Sure. Yeah. I've had that experience many times, especially with albums.
Chinese Democracy, like
like Billy Idol's Cyberpunk is one of my favorite albums of all time, and when I first listened to it, I really didn't like it. And now I think it was like probably one of the most forward-thinking albums ever. Like, but if I just dismissed it the first time I listened to it, I was like, that sucks. Ugh, weird. What a weird album. Like I had missed out on experiencing realizations that I had from that album. Same thing with books too, and conversations. Like they're all the same thing. It's basically human beings expressing themselves to each other and asking questions, pondering the meaning of life or whatever, like.
Well, and that very phenomenon, I'm sure most people have gone through that, where they saw something or listened to something a second time and they liked it that time. And it's like, that shows you why your mind can't change in one conversation,
Yeah.
Like the entirety of the conversation kind of has to be repeated. So if you yeet someone out of your life like 2 days after meeting them, you're not going to process some potentially life-changing information, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and context is another factor as well. I remember I watched.
Oh, and on the flip side, if you wanted to change their mind, you've taken that opportunity away too.
Well,
So
that was what I was getting at earlier. That yeah. So back when Event Horizon came out and was played in the theaters, I watched it in the theater with my coworkers, and we kind of just laughed at it, like, "Ha, this is a goofy movie, and it's kind of like Hellraiser in space, and yeah, this is silly." And that was my perception of that movie, and I saw it at a local video store, and I bought it on VHS because I was like, man, this is all right. It's an all right movie. But then, like a year later, I was home alone and I was bored. And I thought, well, I'm going to watch a movie. What movie am I going to watch? Well, I guess it's going to be Event Horizon. And I pulled it off the shelf, popped it into the VCR, and it fucking terrified me. It was so scary. Like, oh my God, that movie is so terrifying when you watch alone in the dark. But when you're around friends, laughing, joking, like, yeah, it's goofy. It seems silly in that context, but in a different one, it was terrifying. Like, I literally could not go to sleep until the sun came up that night. So that's another thing to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting how we diverge from our initial topic, but it all ties together.
It kind of does.
Because even like being scared by a movie, like you're almost suspending stoicism for the sake of entertainment there, and it's like that's almost like a good exercise even to just allow yourself to like let go and have that experience
That
every now and then,
in that video they talked about that, like being uncomfortable, like intentionally making yourself uncomfortable to be able to grapple with those feelings.
That's right. That was a really good video. We'll have to link to that.
It was like it so succinctly summed up everything, and oh man, yeah. So watch it if you haven't, because it is good. I think I've had enough beer for now.
On a particularly warm day, it's probably best not to imbibe too much.
Yeah, well, and you're in a car, so
I'm all right. I'll drive stoically home.
I think this is something that requires a lot more conversation. I have a lot of ideas on this, but I probably have had too much beer to really express all of them. But I think this is a good kind of primer, like a good starting point.
Yeah.
Especially for people who've never heard of it before. Yeah.
Indeed. So if you want to visit patreon.com/KSMvidcast and become a patron, we'd really appreciate it, because then maybe I could get some real internet.
Yeah, Jesus. Pay for Casey's internet. He's got potato internet there. What you had DSL, and then the the
It's still
landlord
DS.
like bought double dial-up or something like that? Like, what is going on?
I don't know. Yeah, like we upgraded and it got worse. So now I'm paying like an extra $15 in rent, and I have worse internet.
Jesus. Well, you know, the stoic way would be to be like, well, it's the way the ball bounces, I guess. But it is really annoying when you're trying to record something and Casey keeps freezing. It's really annoying. So, you know, if you want to avoid that, and we do edit out a few freezes, it happens kind of on the regular. So if you want to avoid that and you want to help us out, like, yeah, kick us a few bucks on Patreon. It'll help miserably.
Indeed. So hang out for a very stoic song. Thanks for deep sink diving with us into Stoicism.
Yes.
It's been said, thoughts have power. The thought alone can shape the outcome of any situation. I've been alone with my thoughts, absent of hands or have nots. I know that I cannot simply wish away war.
Victory for our cause or danger to the very existence of our nation.
No time tale can make transfer to a century. There's a chance for all to say that our thoughts must set us free. I can't be bothered to stop aspirations to climb to the top. If there's a way I could see all of the world's beauty, there's not a thing I would not do. If my time could only last with you.
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. That I might have been given a bad grade, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thanks.